wanted to talk about what we would do on the first day if we have the honor of getting elected. I think it's very important that the people, the voters of Florida, understand that elections matter, and that the opportunity to vote in this election is precious and important. And the things that I would like to do if I win, right after I get sworn in, include the following. Make government open, honest, and transparent. Raise the minimum wage for contractors doing business with state agencies that the governor controls to 10-10. Fight for equal pay for employees of state contractors. Protect LGBT employees from discrimination in the workplace. And ensure Florida tax dollars go to Florida businesses and workers to the extent that that's possible. Let me go into a little more detail on what this means. Open and transparent government. We will require all communications about official business to be retained as current law requires. We will direct state agencies to produce public records at the lowest possible cost available to all Floridians, including all of you, obviously. And in a Crist administration, the Governor's Office of Open Government will actually advocate on behalf of the public's right to know, not work against it. Minimum wage. We will raise the minimum wage for contractors doing business with the state to 10-10 an hour. Watson, come on up. This is my friend, Watson Leon Haynes from St. Pete High, and now the Urban League. Good morning. Good to see you. Good morning.
You always positioned me?
You've always positioned me. The concept of a minimum wage, Rick Scott has said, makes him cringe. We will fight for equal pay. State contractors working with executive agencies will certify they will not retaliate against employees who share salary information. Executive agencies will establish new procedures requiring contractors to report wage data, including information on gender and race. Prevent discrimination against LGBT workers. Executive action will prohibit any form of discrimination within their agencies on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. And investing Florida tax dollars in Florida businesses. Direct government to make every effort within the bounds of the law to hire Floridians and Florida businesses for the work they do for the state. It's now a great honor for me. These are 5 executive orders, by the way, that I will sign on the day I am inaugurated, immediately after I'm inaugurated. The first of the 5 will be the one directed toward transparency. I think it's fundamentally important that you have access to your government, that travel records are not redacted, that you don't have to pay exorbitant fees in order to get records that are rightfully yours. I know it's frustrating for you in the media. You have a job to do. You're public servants too. And the job that you have to do should not be hard and it should not be hindered. The Scott administration has done exactly that to you, meaning he's done that exactly to the people of Florida. You're their eyes and their ears, and you deserve access to your government. With that, first I would like to introduce Watson Haynes. Watson and I have been friends for a very long time. He's a great man. I was in his wedding, right? He's the only white guy in the wedding, I think. It was an honor. And Watson has been a great community leader. And as I mentioned earlier, he is the president of Pinellas County's Urban League. Watson.
Let me take the opportunity to thank my good friend Charlie Crist for what he has not only done in the past, but this is significant for the entire state of Florida and this nation. 2 years ago, the National Urban League with other civil rights organizations joined together in an effort to raise the minimum wage to $10.10 an hour. We're still progressing with Congress to make that happen. But for somebody to be a candidate for governor and say, right now, I will do it when I become governor, means that he's not going to wait for Congress to tell the state of Florida what to do. And I think to pass that on to subcontractors who really do not make enough money to maintain jobs as subcontractors on with a lot of these companies who get government contracts, this is a day of happiness for them, because they know that this is a step out of poverty. raising that minimum wage. And so I commend Governor Crist. Yes, I said Governor Crist. I commend Governor Crist for saying that this will be the first executive order because it will change the face of poverty in the state of Florida, one person, one family at a time. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Miles. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'd also like to share a great woman, new councilwoman, that I was privileged to support during her campaign, Darden Rice. She's doing an excellent job on the City Council. I appreciate your leadership. And without more, please say what you would like to say.
Good morning. I'm Darden Rice, and I'm your City Council member from St. Petersburg. And what an honor it is to be here today to stand with our next governor. Charlie Crist understands the type of leadership that's required that Florida needs now that we're ready for. Charlie Crist has always understood that openness and transparency is the only way and the best way to run our state government. And Charlie Crist truly understands that openness and transparency is what inspires the confidence and the trust to earn the support of our Florida citizens. The fact that women, in this day and age, the fact that women still make 83 cents on the dollar for men is a fact that speaks in and of itself to the fact that it's overdue that we have strong state leadership address pay inequality issues. And Charlie Crist is ready to move forward on this issue from day one. Finally, Florida is also ready for equal protections for gay couples and gay employees working for the state of Florida. Charlie Crist understands that any type of discrimination hurts one, hurts all, and that fairness is important to everybody. And he's ready to get started from day one for protections for LGBT employees of state government. So I am proud to be here today to stand with the governor, the next governor, as he announces his top 5 executive orders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dorothy. Well, thank you all. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Governor, in our latest internally poll, you are ahead by 6 points, but that poll also shows something else. 68% of respondents said they want to see you debate Dan Rich. Will you?
No,
Why not?
because I'm focused on Rick Scott.
Do you expect Rick Scott to debate you?
My understanding is that he said he will.
He will. In fact, Governor, yes, he announced today he will do a CNN debate, a telemundo debate, and a leadership debate. I'm sorry, a leadership board debate.
Right.
Are those what you're going to do, or is he going to decide which debates to do? What you think?
Well, I think Floridians should decide what debates we do. And I have in front of me a microphone from another group that has asked us to do a debate. And I think we ought to do the Univision debate also, in addition to the 3 that he's limiting himself to, apparently. I also think that the Tampa Bay Times is sponsoring one and has offered to do one with CBS, if I'm not mistaken. I think we should do that too. I think we should do a town hall style debate. We can't debate enough because there's a lot to debate about. And it's about the future of Florida, and it's about fundamental fairness that I've talked about this morning. It's about raising the minimum wage. It's about, being fair to women and having equal pay for women. It's about not discriminating against LGBT or anybody else on any other basis. And the fact that Governor Scott wants to try to limit this and control it is not surprising to me. He tries to control everything. And so I wish he would debate more. I doubt that he will. But I look forward to debating about what he's done in the next 3 months of this campaign, and I'll stay focused on it. Because Florida deserves better. Yeah, I'm sorry.
What could you do to slow the proliferation of charter schools that are rerouting federal funding, especially from urban public schools in Florida?
Well, the charter schools issue has concerned me, to be honest with you. And I think you could do a lot to try to ensure that it's done right and done better. I actually sponsored the charter schools bill, which required that they be public schools and that they be approved by local school boards. Some of that has now changed, and that is regrettable. And so I think a review of how the charter schools are handled in the state of Florida is necessary. Accountability must be required there. And I think that if I win, we'll get about the business of doing it. If I don't, that won't happen.
Can I ask, is there any evidence to anybody that there is state discrimination against LGBT employees currently?
Well, we live in a state where in some places it's possible to be gay and lose your job. So I think that what Governor Crist is proposing sets an important tone for leadership, that Florida is a type of state where all businesses and all families can come to do business and be free of discrimination. We've made a lot of great gains on LGBT issues. We still have a way to go.
But you're not aware of anything that, you're not suggesting Rick Scott is discriminating against LGBT employees, anyone?
We certainly hope not, but I don't know, because we're not there.
Governor Scott signed a legislation allowing undocumented students to pursue college education. Now, there was another piece of legislation that they go through about driver licenses for these people that come here and just they need some way of transportation. Is that in your plans as well?
Of course it is, and I'm familiar with the legislation that you indicate he did sign, but good luck getting to school. If you don't have a driver's license, how are you going to get there? And so if we're going to be fair to everybody in Florida, we need to do the right thing and sign both of those bills to make sure that they have the opportunity not only to get an education, but to get to that education.
You talked about raising the minimum wage for those employees that work with the state government.
Yes, sir.
What about, would you have efforts in trying to raise the state minimum wage or push in general, or working with the federal government in that effort as well?
I would. I would. And, I'm talking about the first day. Legislature's not in session yet on the first day. And so what I'm talking about is things that we can do on day one, right after being inaugurated, that afternoon. I think it takes place at noon. At least it did when I was inaugurated last time. And so I think that having the opportunity to go right back into the old Capitol, to the traditional old governor's office, and sign these 5 executive orders of fairness to the people of Florida, lets them know from the get-go that this is what we're all about. It's fundamental fairness for everyone, regardless of race, regardless of language, regardless of sexual orientation. None of that should matter. If you're a Floridian, I want to fight for you. And I want to make sure that if you're a contractor with the state of Florida, you get a preference for that job and for these jobs, and that they hire Floridians whenever possible to carry out that work.
What is your response to the new poll that came out yesterday in regards to medical marijuana here in Florida, the overwhelming response?
It was pretty stunning, to be honest. I mean, if I remember the numbers correctly, I think it said 88% favored medical marijuana in Florida. I do too. I'm going to vote for it. I believe Rick Scott said he is against it. It's another contrast point between the two of us. Listen, I have a sister who was diagnosed with brain cancer less than a year ago. And, people like her, or people with multiple sclerosis, or whatever their disease may be, if they have significant pain at some time during their treatment, it seems a lot smarter and more compassionate to me to allow the use of medical marijuana prescribed by a physician to help them out. For too long now, we've been dependent on drugs like Oxycontin that have been terribly damaging to people. And obviously my fellow Floridians get it too. Unfortunately, Rick Scott doesn't. He opposes it.
Yesterday, the Florida Medical Association...
The amendment, that is.
Yesterday, the Florida Medical Association voted to endorse the expansion of Medicaid. Governor Scott has said he's actually in support of it. What would you do, and do you believe that Governor Scott wants to expand Medicaid, and it's just the legislature that's holding it back?
First, I want to commend the FMA for endorsing the expansion of Medicaid. It's the right thing to do. For about 1 million of our fellow Floridians, they would have the opportunity to get health care today. But because of Rick Scott's lack of action and failure, frankly, on expanding Medicaid, 1 million of our fellow Floridians again today are not going to get health care. And Florida's not going to get about $51 billion over the next 10 years to help us expand that Medicaid. Money that we sent to Washington, frankly, and we should have it. So this is just another failure, sadly, that has occurred under Rick Scott. If I got there, and if I was elected governor, I would call a special session as quickly as possible to try to convince the legislature that the right thing to do is to make sure that our fellow Floridians who deserve it get the health care they should have as soon as possible. And so that's how I would handle it. That's not how he is handling it.
Governor, on that subject,
Yeah.
the FMA endorsed Medicaid expansion with a condition, which is that Medicaid reimbursement rates for physicians be raised to the same level as Medicare. That would take, as I understand it, legislative action and a pretty good chunk of state money. Would you want to do that?
I'd have to review it before I could respond.
What are your thoughts on streamlining Nellis and eventually rail throughout the whole Tampa Bay area?
Oh gosh, what a great question. I support it, number one. And I think that, again, one of the huge contrasts between Rick Scott and Charlie Crist is the fact that I supported high-speed rail. That we had the opportunity to have here in Central Florida, and ultimately would go to South Florida. Would have been $2.4 billion of infusion into our economy, would have been about 30,000 jobs, probably 10,000 jobs permanent that we could have had, and Rick Scott rejected. I mean, I don't understand that kind of nonsense. You know, it seems to me that we need more common sense, whether it's rail or supporting education, supporting our teachers instead of, you know, demoralizing them. So much good can happen with one election, and that's why I'm running. I'm running for the people of Florida, and those who want rail, those who want better education, those who want our universities supported, those who want somebody to protect the environment again, those who want somebody to defend, you know, all citizens from all over the state, no matter where they come from, no matter who they are, no matter what language they speak, those who support the media's right to access to our government. I mean, you know, I could go on and on and on, but I won't.
There's no
Today.
Tampa staff for all aboard Florida right now. If elected, would you encourage them to stop in Tampa?
All Aboard Florida is fraught with a lot of questions right now, and I think it deserves to be investigated. We're not sure how All Aboard Florida came to be.
What kind of investigation are you talking about?
A good one, an honest one, a transparent one where we can find out how the governor's chief of staff lobbied him before he became his chief of staff to try to make this thing come about. I mean, there's so many things going on up there that we don't know the answers to because, frankly, he won't answer any questions. You know, it's like pleading the fifth. I mean, we shouldn't really be surprised that the media is treated the way you are with this governor, and he won't answer questions when you ask him point blank for answers. So it ought to be investigated, number one, to see how it came about. I'm troubled by it. You know, the citizens in the communities that would be directly affected initially seem to be troubled by it. So we need to do things right, do them in the open, do them with transparency, and do the things that the people of Florida truly need and want. And that's what I'll do if I win. Always have, always will. Thank you very much. Thanks for bringing it, Mike. It served me well today. Thank you, Mike.
Every single day.
I get it, but, you know, to talk about fundamental fairness, I think, is incredibly important. And these things that Rick Scott doesn't support are exactly the kind of things that we need to get done for our fellow Floridians. And that's the emphasis today. And that's why we wanted to talk to you all. And I appreciate it.
So as far as your, we were talking about the debate schedule.
Yes.
He had scheduled 3 debates so far. Your response to that, are you willing to take those 3 debates, add more to them, or is it whenever, wherever you're ready to debate?
Yes, I just told Adam, I'm more than happy to accept those debates, of course, but we should do more. There's so much to debate about what his administration has done and not done. We talked about it, Medicaid expansion, high-speed rail. I mean, the list goes on and on. You know, dumping into the Caloosahatchee and St. Lucie River. I mean, people can't swim in Fort Myers Beach right now. I mean, it's unconscionable what he's done to our state. And I know we deserve better, and I know we're going to get better, and I look forward to it.
But if you want more debates with him, why not more with Nan
These
Rich?
initiatives today seem to target a couple of demographics in which polls have shown you're not doing as well as a Democrat would, the African-American vote and the female vote. Can you talk a little bit more about, how you're polling with these groups and what you need to do?
I think we're doing fine. I mean, you need to realize I've had about $30 million dumped on me from Rick Scott, most of it vastly negative. And in spite of that, and our spending less than $1 million on TV, we're ahead in the two, most legitimate recent public polls by 5 or 6 points. I find that rather astonishing, and I can only explain it by thanking God and thanking the people of Florida for not believing all his junk.
Governor, I have some of these key groups that are so important to Democrats, though, such as the African-American voter. You think you can rally the kind of numbers that you need?
I think we can. I think we will. When you realize that even as a Republican, I fought for and got restoration of rights achieved, that as Attorney General, I fought for civil rights cases that were, against African Americans. I mean, the first one that I was able to prosecute was against a hotel called the Southern Inn in Cary, Florida. And I got that law passed so that Florida's Attorney General wouldn't have to wait for the U.S. Department of Justice to get it done. We prosecuted a motel owner that had an African-American family there for a family reunion. And while they were there, the children were swimming in the pool. And the owner of the hotel went to the pool, can't make it up. He said, no coloreds in the pool. This was about 2003 in Florida. We got wind of it in the AG's office. We sent investigators. We got affidavits. We prosecuted the case. And that man can never do business in the state of Florida again because of my fighting for civil rights or my fellow Floridians.
Governor, I have to ask you again, you want more debates with Rick Scott, but you won't do one with Nan Rich.
That's right. I got to keep my eye on the ball. I understand as an old football player that if you want to win and get in the end zone, you got to stay focused.
Are you concerned about what that says to Democrats?
No, I'm not. No. What I'm concerned about is Rick Scott. That's why I'm running. And I'm running to give Floridians a choice, that we have an opportunity to have a governor who's got a heart again. I mean, the Tampa Bay Times said it best. He's the Tin Man, the man without a heart. Thank you all very much.
Okay, that's better.
Oh, can I get your program?